There we go.
Brilliant. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I see there's some new faces, so I'd like to welcome you to this working group. Would it be helpful to give you a brief summary of this working group before we dive into the agenda? Or are you okay? Just yeah, give it a thumbs up if you think it's okay. Okay, awesome. So looking at the agenda, first agenda item is the knowledge base. So I'm really happy to share an update on this. So we discussed, I'm sharing my screen. Last session, we discussed, taking steps to develop this knowledge base, which is part of the objectives of this working group. And now we have this MD file in the GitHub repo. And thank you to Paul and Serkan for contributions to this. So this is just the, first stab at this, and this is a living document. So if there are other documents that you want to add to this that you think are really, really important for either newbies or even experts in the field who are working on open source funding and the measurements of the impacts of such funding, please feel free to add those resources here, and also feel free to restructure this knowledge base. So the headings here, I added just to kind of to structure the document, but if you feel like you could organize in a better way, go to town, and we appreciate those contributions. So yeah, so this is where we're at with the Knowledge Hub. Do we have any questions about contributing or next steps? No? So, well, I guess a question that I have, which I wanted to share with the group, which is in the first few sessions, we started off like a slide series where we wanted to summarize really key information from prior studies, including some of these studies that we've got in this knowledge base. We have had two presentations from this slide series so far, and I wanted to ask if what the feeling is in the group, if we should continue with this, if it's useful. I personally think it's useful, but I don't want to create extra burdens for other people who don't think it's useful. So yeah, I'll open the floor to comments and thoughts.
I think you've got one from Serkan. Serkan, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we can add summaries, maybe one line, two line summaries, since most of them are quite long research papers. I'm just thinking. So in my pull request, I added some one-liners, let's say.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It could be like, an annotated bibliography, just call it in academia. Although, yeah, so if folks have summaries already for some of these papers, please feel free to add them. Just conscious of like how much work it would be to write these summaries from scratch. So and maybe it will take one step at a time and add these summaries bit by bit. But that's a great idea. Thank you, Serkan. See, there's two things in the chat. Oh, those are your comments. Great. So, well, so this is the knowledge base. Now you know about it. Please feel free to share it with others. And I look forward to seeing it grow. So let's go to, can you see the agenda document now on my screen?
Yep.
Great, fantastic. So moving down the agenda, speaker series. So last time we had Johan Lineker speaking, which was great. He presented the paper that you presented with him, Kevin. Thanks for joining us today. And so this is the status so far. We have a great list of speakers. So I personally can reach out to Mirko, who is my line manager, and ask him if he would like to share the key findings from the study that he did with his co-authors for the European Commission on the economic impacts of open source. So yeah, thanks for adding me as responsible. I'll do that after this meeting. Here.
Yeah, because I think this requires a little bit of coordination, because I know that I was a little bit reluctant to reach out to somebody and give them a speaking slot if we hadn't really talked about which one we wanted to do next and who was going to ask who, because we could easily end up with 3 people on the agenda and not enough time to do that.
Yeah.
So I would say, I think Mirko would be a great person to do the next one. I would say if you can't get him, maybe ping one of the other people responsible for one of the other ones, or another one that you're responsible for, and let's just try to coordinate that a little bit so that we can make sure that we get people invited.
Yeah, that's a really good point about coordination. Mirko, I know, is going to be on the road in the next 2 weeks, so he may not be available in the next session, but possibly in the one after that.
Okay.
So
Maybe at the point of organizational process, I think
Yeah.
maybe if we add like just a column with like the proposed date for when they'll speak.
yeah, great idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And if we think Mirko's going to be too busy, do you want me to reach out to Sophia instead and see if she can do the one in 2 weeks?
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I will do that.
Yeah, and for those that are new to the working group, the point of this speaker series is to get experts to come along and share their expertise, and use this session that we have to really get into the nitty-gritty and kind of understand methodologies for measuring open source funding in various ways. So in this list, you'll see folks who have done research that is qualitative, quantitative, or for example, Sophia, her talk here, it's hyperlinked to her talk at FOSSI 2024. It's a review of various valuation models. So this is all relevant work. If you think of others, please feel free to add to this list. Any contribution is welcome. Great, so should we move down to the next speaker? So Sean will be.
Due to some travel, Sean was supposed to speak today, but it turns out that he's actually at another conference in Amsterdam, and thought the meeting was yesterday. So he is not available to speak today. So since we had already told Mila that she could speak in 2 weeks, I kept to that, and I bumped Sean back out since he was the one who wasn't quite ready. So Mila, you'll still be up in 2 weeks for the meeting on April 9th, and then we'll move Sean to April 23rd. And is there anybody else interested in doing one after that? So I guess the next meeting after that would be May 7th. Is there anybody else who has a research topic that they'd like to cover? Okay, well, no pressure. If you think of something in the meantime, feel free to post it in the chat, or sorry, not in the chat, in the Slack channel, and we can coordinate things there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, can also just volunteer myself and Adrian. So we're currently doing interviews with various grantees that received funding from the NGI. Perhaps we could share some initial findings with you before we write them up into a report. So Adrian, perhaps we can have a chat about what timeline would work for us.
Yeah.
And how
Yeah, I'm just wondering how that gonna, because we would be starting, but we'll figure it out. Sorry.
Yeah, TBC. Thank you, Anonymous Blobfish.
That would be me taking my notes, since I'm not facilitating the meeting.
Yeah, thank you. So, so we have a lot of time left. At the end, we usually go through reminders about upcoming events. But before we get to the reminders of those events, does anyone want to volunteer any discussion items? No, then perhaps we can jump straight into the reminders. Dawn, would you like to go through them, or should I do that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So the Open Source Summit in Denver in June, we're doing a CHAOSScon the day after. So just to encourage you to attend, if you're attending the Open Source Summit, to stay a day later and come to CHAOSScon. That would be great. I think we're going to be opening the CFP for CHAOSScon soon-ish. So if there's any topics that you want to discuss there, look for that CFP coming soon. And then the CFP for the Open Source Summit Europe closes April 14th. So that's another good one to do talks at. So I would encourage you to submit something there as well. And then this is the last week of daylight savings confusion. So the meetings will move back to the normal time for those of us that don't shift at the same time the US does. The US creates a lot of confusion for the rest of us. The meetings have just, I gotta say, the meetings have been a mess for 3 weeks. Nobody knows when the meetings are, and there's been a lot of confusion. So that will end after those of us in Europe switch to daylight saving on Sunday.
Yeah.
Saturday.
I've also been confused because I'm based in Bogota, Colombia, and I always thought that Colombia was on the same time as Eastern time. It turns out that's only for half of the year, and actually currently we're not aligned with Eastern time. So thankfully I learned that. So well, great. So well, since we don't have anything else to discuss, we can save some time in our schedules. Just conclude by saying thanks for coming along to those that are new here. Please do check out the knowledge base. Feel free to contribute any relevant reports or papers that are missing. And task for us is to add some summaries to make this knowledge base a bit more informative and digestible. Great. So on that note, because we can round up and say see you next time. Great.
Thanks,
Cheers.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.